I never thought my secret would come out this way. One mistake, one hidden love, and suddenly my whole life changed. He wasn't just my teacher, he was my everything. But loving him came with a cost. Whispers behind my back, judgment from every corner, and a fear that never left me. Then came the baby. Our love had a heartbeat now. But was it love or a trap I had walked into? This is my story. I always believed my life was simple. Wake up early, walk to school, and sit quietly in class. I was the kind of girl who never caused trouble. Teachers trusted me, friends often leaned on me, and my parents thought I was their perfect child. At least, that's what everyone saw on the outside. But deep inside, I carried a quiet loneliness. I longed for something more, something that made me feel alive, something that broke the endless cycle of school and home. And then he walked in, Mr. Carter, the new English teacher. He wasn't like the others. While most teachers droned on about grammar and literature, Mr. Carter spoke with a warmth that pulled you in. He laughed at small jokes, he noticed when someone was quiet, and he always gave you the feeling that your words mattered. The first day he walked into our classroom, the room changed. Students who usually played with their phones sat up straighter. The noise faded, and when his eyes swept across the room, it felt like he saw everything. When his gaze landed on me, I froze. Just for a second, but I felt it. That strange spark, that dangerous awareness. I told myself I was imagining it. After all, he was a teacher, and I was just a student. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, I noticed things. The way he lingered near my desk when checking homework. The way he smiled when I answered his questions. The way his voice softened. Only when he spoke to me. It should have ended there. A crush. A silly, harmless crush like so many girls had. But with Mr. Carter, it didn't feel silly. It felt real. One afternoon, I stayed after class to finish an essay. The classroom was quiet, just the scratching of my pen on paper. When I looked up, Mr. Carter was watching me. Not like a teacher watching a student, but like a man seeing someone he couldn't ignore. "Good work, Anna," he said softly. His voice carried something unspoken, something that made my heart race. I looked down quickly, trying to hide the heat in my cheeks. But then, I heard his footsteps move closer. He leaned against the desk next to mine, his cologne faint but sharp. "You're different," he said quietly. "You think, you feel, you see things other people don't." It was the kind of compliment that pierced deeper than any grade or award. And from that moment, something dangerous began. At home, things still looked normal. Dinner with my parents, helping my little brother with homework, pretending everything was fine. But every time my phone buzzed with a new message, every time I walked into English class, every time his eyes met mine, my world shifted. Our bond grew in stolen moments. A glance across the classroom. A quiet exchange in the hallway. A smile that lasted a second too long. Nobody noticed. Or maybe nobody wanted to. Yet, deep inside me, a voice whispered, "This isn't normal. This isn't safe." But I didn't listen. Because with him, I didn't feel invisible anymore. Still, the cracks were there. Subtle, but real. Friends began asking why I stayed behind after class so often. My mother started noticing how distracted I was at home. And Mr. Carter, sometimes he looked at me with fear in his eyes, like he knew this was a fire we couldn't control. One evening, as I packed my bag after school, he placed a book on my desk. It wasn't part of the curriculum. Inside the cover, a note. "Some stories aren't meant for everyone, just us." I held that book against my chest all the way home. But I also knew deep down that this wasn't just a story. This was the beginning of something bigger. Something that could shatter everything. And it was only a matter of time before the first crack widened. The days passed, but my world no longer felt the same. School hallways that once felt boring now carried secrets. Every bell, every class, every glance held a weight. Mr. Carter was careful. He never spoke to me too long when others were around. He never wrote anything suspicious. But still, I felt the invisible thread pulling us closer. At lunch, I caught him walking by the cafeteria. Our eyes met for less than a second. But that 1 second lit my whole body like fire. I knew I was changing. Friends noticed too. "Anna, you've been so quiet lately," my best friend Emily said. "You smile to yourself like you're hiding something." I laughed it off, pretending it was nothing. But inside, my heart beat faster. Because she was right. I was hiding something. At night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every detail. His words, his smile, the note in the book. It was all too much. Sometimes, I imagined telling someone. But how could I? Who would believe me? And if they did, what would happen to him? So I kept it locked inside. A secret no one could touch. One rainy afternoon, everything changed again. The last bell rang, students rushed out. I stayed behind, claiming I had questions about an assignment. When the room was empty, Mr. Carter closed the door. The sound echoed. My chest tightened. He didn't stand at the front like a teacher. He came closer, sitting on the desk across from me. His eyes searched mine, serious, almost troubled. "Anna," he whispered, "this isn't right." My stomach dropped. Was this the end? Had he decided to stop everything before it even began? But then his voice broke. "I can't help it. When I see you, I don't feel like your teacher. I feel something else." My breath caught. I wanted to speak, but no words came. He looked away, as if fighting himself. "You're too young, this shouldn't happen." Silence stretched between us. The ticking clock filled the room. Finally, I found my voice. "But it is happening," I whispered. The moment hung heavy. And in that silence, everything changed. From then on, our bond deepened. Not openly, not loudly, but in hidden corners, in late messages, in unspoken promises. He gave me books, music, words that felt like love letters without saying the word love. And I gave him my trust, every piece of it. At home, I was no longer the perfect daughter. I missed family dinners. I ignored my brother's calls for help. Even my grades slipped in classes that weren't his. My mother frowned one night at the table. "Anna, is something going on?" she asked gently. I shook my head quickly, forcing a smile. But inside, fear twisted in me. Could she tell? Mr. Carter noticed too. "You have to be careful," he warned softly. "If anyone suspects, it could destroy everything." I nodded, but my heart ached. Because what I wanted most was to live this openly, without hiding, without fear. Still, I told myself to be patient. Maybe one day, things would be different. But even as I dreamed, the cracks grew wider. Emily asked again, "Why are you always busy after school?" Another friend teased, "Who's the secret guy?" I laughed it off every time. But deep down, guilt burned hotter. One weekend, Mr. Carter arranged a meeting. Not at school, not anywhere people knew us. A quiet cafe in a nearby town. When I walked in, he was already waiting. The sight of him there, out of school, just a man, made my knees weak. We sat across from each other, coffee cups untouched. For once, there was no rush, no fear of being caught. And yet, the danger lingered. Every time the door opened, we both stiffened. Every glance from strangers made us uneasy. Still, he reached across the table. His fingers brushed mine. The warmth of that touch made me forget the world. "Someday," he whispered, "we'll live without hiding." I wanted to believe him. I clung to those words like a lifeline. But as I walked home that evening, I saw Emily waiting at my house. She waved, smiling, but her eyes scanned me carefully, as if searching for answers. And in that instant, I realized something chilling. Secrets don't stay secrets forever. Because no matter how carefully we hid, the world was watching. And sooner or later, someone would see the truth. And when that happened, everything would break. The weeks slipped into months. And with every passing day, the secret between Mr. Carter and me grew heavier. At school, we were careful. Almost too careful. He kept his distance in class, rarely looking my way. But then, when no one was watching, a tiny smile would flash across his face. A smile meant only for me. That smile kept me alive. It gave me hope in the middle of all the fear. But living two lives was exhausting. With my friends, I pretended nothing was wrong. I laughed at their jokes. I walked the halls as if my world wasn't on fire. But inside, my thoughts never left him. At home, things grew complicated. My mother grew sharper with her questions. "You've been distracted, Anna," she said one evening. "You hardly eat. You stay locked in your room. Is something bothering you?" I shook my head quickly.
"No, Mom.
"Just school stress." She sighed, clearly not convinced. But she let it go.
For now."
My father, always busy with work, barely noticed. But my little brother, he did. He teased me at dinner. "Anna's hiding something. I bet she has a boyfriend." The word hit me like thunder. I froze, the fork slipping from my hand. My cheeks burned. Everyone laughed it off. But my heart raced with terror. If only they knew how close his words were to the truth. And Emily, she became suspicious too. She studied me in ways she never had before. Once, after class, she grabbed my arm. "Anna, tell me, who is it? Who's making you smile when you think no one's looking?" I panicked. I lied. "It's no one, Em. Just daydreams." She narrowed her eyes, but said nothing more. Still, her silence felt louder than any accusation. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter grew more cautious. He avoided even small risks. One afternoon, I slipped a note into his hand when no one was around. Later, he found me in the library. "Don't do that again," he whispered firmly. "It's too dangerous." His tone stung. For a moment, I almost felt like a child scolded by a parent. But then his eyes softened. And quietly he added, "I'm only saying this because I care." Those words melted me. I forgave him instantly, because deep down, I believed his caution meant he wanted to protect us. But the truth? It was becoming harder and harder to hide. Every message, every meeting was a gamble. Every lie I told my family was another thread ready to snap. And yet, I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. One Friday evening, he called me. His voice was low, urgent. "Can you meet me? Just for a little while." My heart raced. I made an excuse to my mother, said I was studying at Emily's. And then I slipped out into the night. We met at the park, under the dim glow of a streetlight. It felt reckless. But in his arms, the fear disappeared. For a few minutes, I was just a girl in love. Not a student. Not a liar. Not someone carrying a secret too heavy for her age. But as we walked back, I spotted someone at the far end of the park. A figure paused under the trees, watching. My breath froze. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Mr. Carter turned quickly, but the figure vanished into the shadows. He frowned, his jaw tight. "It's probably nothing," he muttered, but I could see the worry in his eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. What if someone had seen us? What if the whispers started tomorrow? The thought made me sick. Still, the pull between us was stronger than fear. The next week, we met again. This time, at a bookstore in another town. We wandered the aisles, pretending to be strangers, until the clerk wasn't looking. Then his hand brushed mine. A simple touch, but it sent lightning through my veins. "Someday," he murmured, "you'll understand why we have to be careful." I nodded, but deep down, I didn't care about careful. I only cared about him. Yet the cracks kept spreading. Emily's questions grew sharper. My mother's eyes lingered on me longer. Even a teacher from another class once asked casually, "Anna, are you and Mr. Carter working on some project? I see you near his classroom often." My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh. Oh no, just passing by. But inside, alarm bells screamed. It was happening. The walls were closing in, and I realized, no matter how careful we were, no secret could stay buried forever. The seed of danger was already planted, and sooner or later it would grow. Life carried on as though nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had. I woke up each day with two faces. One for the world, smiling, ordinary, obedient. And another, the hidden face that belonged only to him. The weight of that double life grew heavier with time. And the cracks around me widened. At school, whispers started. Small at first, then louder. "Anna's different lately. She's hiding something. She looks guilty." I tried to laugh them off, but the whispers spread like wildfire. And once people start looking for secrets, they usually find them. One afternoon, Emily caught me by surprise. We sat in the cafeteria, trays untouched. She leaned in close, her eyes sharp. "Anna," she whispered, "I saw you at the park last week." My fork clattered against the plate. My chest tightened. What do you mean?" I stammered. Her expression hardened. "You weren't alone. You were with Mr. Carter." The world tilted. My pulse roared in my ears. I forced a shaky laugh. "Don't be ridiculous. Why would I be with him?" But Emily didn't laugh. She stared at me, hurt flickering in her eyes. "You don't have to lie to me. I'm your friend. Just tell me the truth." I swallowed hard. My mouth opened, then closed again. The truth sat on the edge of my tongue, but fear shoved it back down. "I don't know what you think you saw," I said quietly. But it wasn't me. Emily leaned back slowly. Her disappointment was louder than any accusation. She didn't press further, but I could feel the distance growing between us. And distance in friendship is almost as dangerous as suspicion. At home, things worsened. My mother grew relentless with her questions. "Who are you talking to on the phone so late? Why do you sneak out at night? Are you hiding something, Anna?" Each question felt like a knife. Each lie I told felt like a scar on my soul. One evening, I snapped. "Mom, I'm not a child anymore. Stop treating me like one." Her face fell. It was the first time I'd ever raised my voice to her. The guilt ate at me long after, but I couldn't stop. The lies demanded bigger lies. The secret demanded sacrifice. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter became more restless. We met in the staff parking lot one late afternoon, sitting in his car with the windows fogged. He looked at me with heavy eyes. "Anna, we need to slow down." The words cut me open. "What do you mean? Do you regret us?" He reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. "No, never. But people are noticing. It's dangerous." Tears stung my eyes. "So what then? We just pretend none of this happened." He shook his head. "I don't know. I just don't want to lose everything. My job. My future. You." The silence between us was suffocating. For the first time, I felt the ground beneath me shake. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe fear would always win. But then he kissed me. Deeply. Desperately. And all the doubt melted away. For a moment, The following week, something strange happened. During class, I caught another student, Sarah, watching me closely. Her eyes narrowed every time I glanced at Mr. Carter. Her smirk told me she suspected something. By the end of the day, she cornered me in the hallway. "You and Mr. Carter, there's something, isn't there?" Her words were sharp. My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "You're crazy. Why would you even say that?" Sarah shrugged. But the way she looked at me, it wasn't casual. It was knowing. And knowing is dangerous. That night, I told Mr. Carter. "She's suspicious. What if she tells someone?" He rubbed his temples, exhausted. "We can't keep living like this. We need to be smarter. Careful." But I could see the fear in his eyes. It mirrored my own. The noose was tightening around us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was only a matter of time before everything snapped. One Friday evening, my world shifted again. I came home to find my mother sitting at the kitchen table, holding my phone. Her face was pale. Her hands shook. "Anna," she said slowly. "What is this?" I froze. On the screen, one of his messages glowed brightly. "I miss you. I can't stop thinking about you." The room spun. My heart pounded. "Mom, I can explain." Her voice cracked. "Explain what? That you're texting your teacher? That you're sneaking behind our backs?" Her words sliced through me. I couldn't breathe. Before I could answer, my father walked in. He saw the phone. His eyes widened. Then his jaw tightened like stone. "Anna, upstairs. Now." His voice left no room for argument. I climbed the stairs, shaking, my whole world collapsing behind me. Through the crack in my bedroom door, I heard their voices, low, furious, panicked. They knew. Everything was unraveling. And in that moment, I realized our secret wasn't safe anymore. The world we had built in shadows was about to be dragged into the light. The setup was over. The storm was coming. The silence in the house was terrifying. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, my heart pounding so loudly I thought the neighbors could hear it. Downstairs, my parents' voices rose and fell, angry, desperate, disbelieving. I knew every word was about me. Minutes felt like hours until finally, the door creaked open. My father stood there. His face was stone, his eyes blazing. "Anna, come down." I obeyed, trembling. My legs felt like they might give way at any moment. In the living room, my mother sat with her arms folded tightly across her chest. My phone lay on the coffee table, screen dark now, but the evidence burned like fire. "Explain yourself," my father demanded, his voice sharp, cutting. I swallowed hard. Words tumbled in my throat, colliding, breaking. I didn't mean." "Don't lie to us," my mother snapped, tears streaming down her face. "These messages, these words, are you telling me you're not involved with your teacher?" The air seemed to collapse around me. My secret, the one I thought I had hidden so carefully, was naked in front of them. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My silence was enough. My mother gasped, covering her mouth. My father slammed his fist against the wall. "Do you understand what you've done? He could go to jail. You've ruined his life and yours." His anger made my skin crawl. It wasn't just fury. It was fear. Fear of shame. Fear of the neighbors finding out. Fear of what this would mean for our family. I whispered, "I love him." The words slipped out before I could stop them. My mother sobbed harder. My father's face darkened like a storm. "You're a child," he spat. "You don't know what love is. You've been manipulated. Used. He's sick. And you're going to forget this ever happened." But I couldn't forget. Not him. Not us. The next day, the whispers at school grew louder. Someone had seen my mother at the office, demanding to speak to the principal. Someone else had seen me leave class early, tears on my face. Rumors spread like wildfire. "Anna's in trouble. She did something with Mr. Carter." "Is it true? Did she?" Each word was a blade. By lunch, I felt the walls closing in. Emily avoided me. Sarah smirked at me like she had won a game. And when I walked past, a boy muttered, "Teacher's pet," in the worst way. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But mostly, I wanted him. That evening, I met him in the park, shadows hiding us. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "They know," he whispered. "Your parents. Maybe more. Anna, this is falling apart." My throat burned. "What are we going to do?" He stared into the distance, silent. Finally, he said, "I don't know if we can keep this going. It's too dangerous. If the school finds out, if the police." "No," I cried, grabbing his hand. "You can't leave me. Please. You promised we'd be together." His eyes softened, but fear lingered behind them. "I love you, but I could lose everything." And that's when it hit me. Love wasn't enough to protect us. Not from the world. Not from betrayal. because betrayal had already begun. My parents had betrayed me by exposing us. The school whispered behind my back. Even he, Mr. Carter, was starting to retreat piece by piece. The panic inside me twisted into something sharper. If the world wanted to destroy me, I wouldn't let it. I would fight back. That night, lying awake in my bed, I made a decision. I would protect what was mine. I would protect him. And if anyone tried to take him from me, I would make them regret it. The seed of revenge was planted in the dark. It grew quickly, feeding on fear, shame, and desperation. Every look, every whisper at school became fuel. Every tear from my mother became proof. The world wanted to rip us apart. I told myself one thing over and over. If they want war, I'll give them war. But revenge is never clean. It's messy, risky, dangerous. And I knew, if someone found out it was me behind the chaos that was about to come, everything would collapse for real. The danger thrilled me. It terrified me, but it also made me feel alive. The next day, I made my first move. I walked into school with my head high, ignoring the whispers. I slipped into the computer lab during lunch, heart pounding. Using the principal's unattended computer, I found what I needed. Emails, notes, confidential files. And with trembling fingers, I planted something inside. Something that would redirect suspicion. Something that would make people look anywhere but at us. By the time the bell rang, the trap was set. And when the first rumors started spreading about another teacher, Mr. Daniels, accused of something inappropriate, I knew my plan was working. The whispers shifted away from me. Eyes looked elsewhere. For the first time in weeks, I felt powerful. But power always comes with a price. And deep down, I knew the real war hadn't even started yet. The first wave of chaos felt intoxicating. For a few days, the whispers in the hall shifted away from me. Students speculated about Mr. Daniels instead, their voices hushed but eager. Did you hear? I think he's in trouble. Something's going on with him and a student. I walked through the hall with my chin lifted, pretending I didn't hear, but inside, I was buzzing with relief. Mr. Carter noticed too. When we met in the empty storage room near the gym, his expression was tense, but there was a flicker of hope. They're distracted, he whispered, his hand brushing mine. But this can't last. Lies have a way of collapsing. I leaned closer, desperate for reassurance. They won't find out about us. I won't let them. I'd burn this whole school down before I let them take you from me. His eyes widened slightly, as if he didn't recognize me anymore. Anna, you're scaring me. But I wasn't scared. I was alive. At home, my parents tightened their grip. I wasn't allowed to use my phone unsupervised. They questioned every step I took. My mother cried more often, and my father grew colder. Yet their control only fueled my fire. The more they tried to cage me, the more I planned. Late at night, I scribbled in a hidden notebook. Names. Secrets. Weaknesses. Everyone who threatened us went onto the list. Emily, who had started avoiding me. Sarah, who smirked every time she saw me. Even my parents. If they wanted war, they'd get war. But war has a cost. One afternoon, as I sat in the library pretending to study, Emily approached me. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. Anna, we need to talk. I froze, forcing my expression to stay neutral. About what? Her eyes darted around before she whispered. About you and Mr. Carter. My blood turned to ice. I forced a laugh. What are you talking about? She shook her head quickly. I saw you, last week, at the park. You were with him. The walls around me crumbled in an instant. She knew. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a razor's edge. If you tell anyone, Emily, you'll regret it. Her eyes widened in horror. She stepped back, shaking her head. I'm your friend. I don't want to hurt you, but this is dangerous. He could go to jail. You could. Enough, I snapped, my voice echoing in the quiet library. Heads turned, my face flushed with heat, but I stood quickly, gathering my books. Walking away, my hands trembled. Emily wasn't my enemy, but she could become one if she pushed me. That night, lying awake, I added her name to the list. The danger of being exposed gnawed at me. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time the principal's voice echoed over the intercom, my stomach flipped. But beneath the fear was a thrill I couldn't shake. I was playing a dangerous game and winning, until the consequences rippled back. On Friday, Mr. Daniels was escorted out of school. The rumors I planted had grown teeth. Teachers whispered. Students stared. He looked bewildered, insisting, "This is a mistake. I didn't do anything." But no one believed him. The gossip I spread had become truth. Watching him walk past me in handcuffs, I felt both powerful and guilty. I hadn't meant for it to go this far. Mr. Carter found me later, his face pale. What did you do? He asked, his voice shaking. I blinked at him, feigning innocence. What do you mean? He grabbed my shoulders, his grip almost desperate. I know this isn't just coincidence. Daniels is my colleague, my friend. If you're behind this. I pulled away, anger flaring. You should be thanking me. Everyone's looking at him now, not us. I saved you. His expression twisted, torn between fear and love. Anna, this isn't saving. It's destroying. I stared at him, heartbreaking. Why couldn't he see? Why couldn't he understand that I was doing this for us? You're mine, I whispered fiercely. And I won't let anyone take you away. But fear crept back in quickly. That night, I overheard my parents in the kitchen. She's hiding something, my father muttered. I don't know what, but it's worse than we thought. My mother's voice cracked. She's slipping away from us. I don't even recognize her anymore. Their words pierced me, but instead of softening me, they hardened me. If they wanted the truth, they'd never get it. If they wanted to break me, they'd fail. I was stronger than them now. Still, the cracks were showing. Emily stopped sitting with me at lunch. Sarah whispered louder when I walked by. Even the teachers seemed wary. And Mr. Carter, my love, my reason, was pulling away. We need space, he said one night when we met in secret. This is too much. Too dangerous. Maybe we should stop. My heart shattered. Stop? After everything? After what I've done for us? His eyes glistened with tears. You're just a girl, Anna. You don't deserve this. You deserve someone your age. Someone who won't ruin you. No, I screamed, my voice breaking. You promised me forever. You can't leave me now. You can't. The silence after my outburst was suffocating. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Anna, I don't know who you are anymore. His words burned through me all night. Didn't he see? Everything I did, every lie, every scheme, was for him. For us. If he walked away now, after all I had sacrificed, it wouldn't just be betrayal. It would be war. And I was ready for war. The next morning, I stared at my notebook. The list of names, the plans, the secrets. If I couldn't keep him with love, I would keep him with fear. And if he thought he could walk away, he was wrong. By the time I left for school, I knew my next move. And this one would change everything. The weekend felt endless. Every corner of my house whispered betrayal. My parents' suspicious stares. Emily's frightened silence. Mr. Carter's hesitation. I couldn't escape the feeling that everyone was plotting against me. So, I sharpened my resolve. If love wasn't enough to bind him to me, fear would be. Sunday night, I left home under the excuse of studying at Sarah's. Instead, I walked to Mr. Carter's apartment. When he opened the door, his face fell. Anna, what are you doing here? I forced a smile. I missed you. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. His apartment smelled of coffee and stale papers. The television murmured in the background, but he looked tense. Anna, we talked about this. You shouldn't come here. If someone sees. I cut him off, stepping closer. No one followed me. Stop worrying. We're safe. But he didn't believe it. His arms folded across his chest, a barrier. Safe? Daniels lost his job. The whole school is buzzing. I can't even look my colleagues in the eye without wondering if they suspect me. You call this safe? His words stung. I did that for us, I snapped. Without me, you'd be exposed already. I'm protecting you. He shook his head slowly, like he was mourning something. No, Anna. You're destroying us. My throat tightened. Destroying? You're everything to me.
How can you say that?
He hesitated, then whispered, because this isn't love anymore. It's obsession. The words sliced me open. I stormed out before he could see my tears. But as I walked the dark streets home, my pain twisted into something sharper. If he wouldn't stay willingly, I'd make sure he had no choice. Monday arrived heavy with dread. The halls buzzed louder than ever. Students shared blurry screenshots of texts proving Mr. Daniels' guilt. I didn't care whether they were real or not. The damage was done. But my victory felt hollow. Mr. Carter barely looked at me. Instead, Emily cornered me between classes. Her face was pale, but determined. Anna, listen. I didn't tell anyone, but I can't keep this secret anymore. You're in too deep. If you don't end this, someone else will. I froze, my heartbeat thundering. Are you threatening me? She shook her head, tears welling.
No.
I'm begging you. I'm your friend. I don't want to watch you ruin your life. Her sincerity pierced me, if only for a second. But then anger rose, drowning everything else. You think you know me? You think you can tell me how to live? Anna. I pushed past her so hard she stumbled. I didn't look back, but her words haunted me all day. By night, my paranoia was unbearable. What if Emily told someone anyway? What if my parents found my notebook? What if Mr. Carter decided to confess everything to save himself? The fear made my hands shake. but fear could be turned into fuel. I opened my notebook and wrote one line under Emily's name. Make her stay quiet. The next morning, I put my plan in motion. Emily always left her locker unlocked. It was a small flaw, but flaws could be exploited. When the halls emptied for first period, I slipped a folded note inside her books. Stay silent, or everyone will know your secret. Of course, she didn't really have one, but the seed of doubt was enough. That afternoon, she found me at lunch, her hands trembling, the note crumpled in her fist. "What is this?" she hissed, eyes wide with panic. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "What do you mean?" Her lips quivered. "Why are you doing this to me? I've never hurt you." My smile was cold. "You already did, by knowing too much." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She fled the cafeteria, and a rush of power filled me. But it was fleeting, because when I looked up, Mr. Carter was standing at the doorway, watching me. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between pity and horror. That night, he called me. His voice was low, urgent. "Anna, I saw what you did today. With Emily." My chest tightened. I was just enough. His voice cracked through the phone. "You're scaring people. You're scaring me. This has to stop before it destroys both of us." Tears blurred my vision. "You promised forever. You promised you wouldn't leave me." His silence stretched painfully. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know if I can keep that promise." The line went dead. The world collapsed. I stared at my notebook for hours, the names blurring on the page. If he left me now, everything I had done, all the lies, all the risks, would be for nothing. And nothing terrified me more than being left behind. By morning, I wasn't the same girl. If love wasn't enough, revenge would be. I would make him see. I would make him pay for doubting me. And I would make sure no one, not Emily, not my parents, not him, ever held power over me again. As I closed my notebook, one thought blazed brighter than the rest. The first move was only the beginning. The real game was about to start. The week that followed felt like walking on broken glass. Emily avoided me completely. She no longer sat beside me in class or ate lunch at our usual table. She was careful not to meet my eyes. But her fear only confirmed what I already knew. I controlled her. Mr. Carter, on the other hand, had grown distant to the point of cruelty. He barely spoke to me, even when I caught him alone after class. His voice was clipped, his eyes haunted. The more he pulled away, the tighter I clung. On Wednesday night, I made my decision. I couldn't let him drift further. I had to remind him that we were bound together. By love, by secrets, by something no one could ever erase. So, I took the biggest risk yet. I left home after midnight, notebook in hand. The streets were empty, the air sharp with winter chill. When I reached Mr. Carter's apartment, I didn't knock. I used the spare key he had given me months earlier, back when he trusted me completely. Inside, the apartment was silent. I moved carefully, the shadows stretching long across the floor. I placed my notebook on his kitchen counter, opened to the page where I had written his name, surrounded by stars and hearts. On the opposite page, I had drawn us holding hands, a small family beneath the sun. And below it, in bold letters. Then, I slipped a tiny photo of us, snapped secretly on my phone weeks ago, into his jacket pocket. Proof that even if he abandoned me, I would never let him forget. The next morning, his reaction was volcanic. He stormed into my classroom before first period, his face pale, his hands trembling.
"Anna.
Outside.
Now."
The entire class watched as I followed him into the empty hallway. He spun on me, voice shaking with fury. "How did you get into my apartment? How much more are you planning to risk? Do you want us both to end up in prison?" I tilted my head, feigning calm. "I just wanted to remind you that we're in this together." His eyes burned.
"No.
"We're not. Not anymore." The words hit harder than a slap. But before I could reply, a teacher walked by. Mr. Carter forced a tight smile, lowering his voice. "Go back inside. We'll talk later." By lunch, rumors spread like wildfire. "Did you see Mr. Carter dragging Anna out of class? Maybe she's the one who leaked the stuff about Mr. Daniels. I heard she's obsessed with him." Every whisper pierced me. My classmates' stares felt like knives. And for the first time, I realized the danger wasn't just about Mr. Carter leaving me. It was about everyone else finding out. That evening, panic gnawed at me. What if the school started investigating? What if my parents learned the truth? What if Emily finally cracked under the pressure? The walls were closing in, so I sharpened my resolve. If the whispers grew louder, I'd give them something to fear. Friday was the turning point. During English, I raised my hand to answer a question. My voice trembled, but I forced confidence. Half the class ignored me. The other half smirked knowingly. When I sat down, Emily slipped me a folded paper. For a moment, I thought she was apologizing. But when I opened it, my breath caught.
It read.
My blood boiled. Emily, my supposed best friend, had become my biggest threat. By the time the final bell rang, my plan was already forming. That night, I took my first real step into the dangerous game. While my parents slept, I hacked into Emily's social media. It wasn't hard. She used the same password for everything. I posted a series of vague, troubling messages under her name. I can't take the pressure anymore. Sometimes it feels like the world would be better without me. Within an hour, classmates began messaging her frantically. Concern poured in. But to them, she suddenly looked unstable, fragile. The effect was immediate and brutal. By morning, the entire school buzzed. Did you see Emily's posts? Is she okay? She's losing it. Poor girl. Maybe she knows something about Mr. Carter. Emily arrived looking pale and shaken, insisting she hadn't written the messages. But doubt had already taken root. She looked at me across the cafeteria, suspicion and betrayal mixing in her eyes. But she couldn't prove anything, and that was all I needed. But victory was bitter. Because when I left school that day, Mr. Carter was waiting by the parking lot. His face was grim.
Anna.
Get in the car. I obeyed, heart pounding. We drove in silence until we reached a secluded park. Finally, he spoke, his voice raw. I know what you did to Emily. I stiffened. You can't prove that. He slammed his hands against the steering wheel, startling me. This isn't a game. You're destroying lives. Hers, mine, yours. Don't you see what you've become? My eyes filled with tears, but my voice was steady. I became this because of you. Because you said you loved me. Because you let me believe we had a future. You don't get to walk away now. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Anna, if you keep going down this path, you'll lose everything. But I didn't care. I had already lost him. And that was unforgivable. That night, I returned to my notebook. Emily's name was crossed out, replaced with sharper lines. Mr. Carter's name was circled, over and over, until the paper tore. The first move of revenge had been made. Emily was crumbling. Mr. Carter was on edge. The school was drowning in suspicion. And I felt alive for the first time in weeks. Because once the first stone is thrown, there's no turning back. The ripples had begun, and I was ready to watch the waves crash. The storm broke on a Tuesday. Rumors had reached their peak. Emily was being called unstable. The school administration whispered about her behind closed doors, and Mr. Carter looked like a man trapped in a cage. Every move I made tightened the walls around him, but it wasn't enough.
Not yet.
I needed a final strike. One so sharp, so undeniable, that no one could escape the fallout. It started with a letter. I left it in the principal's office mailbox, typed and signed, dripping with just enough truth to be believable. A teacher is in a relationship with a student. Everyone knows. No one says it. Look closer. Watch the signs. No names. Just poison. By the next morning, the entire school buzzed louder than ever before. Emily cornered me in the bathroom during second period. Her face was pale, her eyes wild. You did this. I smiled faintly. Did what? Her voice shook. The posts, the rumors, the letter. I know it's you. Why, Anna? Why are you trying to destroy me? I leaned in close, whispering so only she could hear. Because you betrayed me. You chose him. Her mouth fell open. You're insane. I tilted my head. Maybe. But insane girls are dangerous, aren't they? Her hands trembled. She wanted to slap me, scream something. But she didn't. She just fled the bathroom, her footsteps echoing. And that's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. By lunchtime, Mr. Carter was called to the office. I watched him walk past me in the hallway, shoulders tense, jaw clenched.
He didn't look at me.
Not once. That hurt. More than I expected. But pain only sharpened my resolve. Later that afternoon, I waited by his car. When he came out, his face was pale, his tie loosened. He froze when he saw me. Get in. I obeyed, slipping into the passenger seat. The silence was suffocating as he drove to the same park where we had argued days earlier. When the car stopped, he turned on me, his voice low but sharp. Do you have any idea what you've done? I stared back, calm. I saved us. I made sure no one could ignore us anymore. His voice cracked. You didn't save us, Anna. You doomed us. I leaned closer, my words cutting.
No.
You doomed us the day you pulled away. I'm just making sure you can't pretend anymore. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles whitened. You're going to destroy me. I smiled. No, Mr. Carter. You're going to destroy yourself. I'm just helping. The next day, the confrontation exploded. The principal called an emergency meeting with the English department. Students whispered in the hallways, eyes darting between me and Emily, me and Mr. Carter. And then, in front of everyone, Emily broke. She's lying. She's the one who's obsessed with him. Gasps rippled through the room. All eyes landed on me. I let a single tear slide down my cheek. I never wanted this. I just wanted to feel loved. My voice was quiet, fragile, but every word was a blade. Mr. Carter's face drained of color. Anna. But I cut him off, my words sharp, deliberate. You told me we'd be together forever. You said we'd start a family. And now you pretend I don't exist. The room froze. Emily's hands covered her mouth. Teachers exchanged horrified glances. The principal stiffened, shock spreading across his features. And Mr. Carter, he looked like a man watching his own world collapse. Stop, he whispered, his voice breaking. Please, Anna, stop. I shook my head, my voice steady now, no longer fragile.
No.
You don't get to silence me anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, the power shifted. I wasn't the victim. I wasn't the broken girl. I was the storm. And he was drowning. After the meeting, chaos erupted. Mr. Carter was suspended pending investigation. Emily avoided me entirely, her once bright eyes now dim with fear. Students buzzed louder than ever, whispering, speculating, piecing fragments of truth and lies together into something monstrous. And me? I walked down the hallway, calm, collected, almost serene, because the first wall had fallen. But the final strike was still to come. That night, Mr. Carter showed up outside my house. He didn't knock. He called me from his car instead. Come outside. Now. I slipped out, heart hammering. He looked broken, sitting in the driver's seat, his tie gone, his hair disheveled. Why, Anna? Why would you do this? I slid in beside him, my voice soft but sharp. Because I loved you. Because you promised me forever. And because if I can't have you, no one can. He stared at me, horror dawning. You don't understand what you've started. They're going to destroy me. They'll take everything. I leaned closer, my lips almost brushing his ear. Then let them. Maybe then you'll feel what I felt when you abandoned me. He flinched like I had stabbed him. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. And it was intoxicating. That night, lying in bed, I realized something. This wasn't about love anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about control. And for the first time in months, I finally had it. But control is dangerous. Because once you taste it, you can't let it go. The days that followed were a blur of whispers, stares, and silence that carried more weight than words ever could. Mr. Carter stopped showing up to school. His classroom sat dark, empty, like a grave where our secrets were buried. But secrets don't stay buried long. They rot. They stink. They rise back to the surface. Emily was the first to crumble. I saw her in the teacher's lounge, shoulders hunched, her face drawn pale. Her friends whispered, but no one touched her. She looked untouchable now, poisoned by association. When her eyes met mine, I smiled. She didn't smile back. She just fled.
Good.
Let her run. Let her know she could never outrun me. The investigation escalated quickly. Parents began calling the school, demanding answers. A concerned citizen had emailed the school board screenshots, edited, manipulated, stitched together from fragments of truth and lies. Of course, the sender was anonymous. But the damage was real. And that's when I realized I didn't just want revenge. I wanted ruin. 3 nights later, Mr. Carter called me. I almost didn't answer. When I finally did, his voice was broken low. Why, Anna? Why are you doing this? Why? I echoed, biting down a laugh. Because you made me a promise. And then you left me standing in the dark. I never promised forever. Yes, you did. My voice cut sharp, like glass. Every time you touched me, every time you whispered my name, that was a promise. His breath shook. They'll take my license, my career, everything. Good, I whispered. Now you'll finally know how it feels to lose something you thought would never break. The line went dead. And for the first time, I wondered if he might actually do something desperate. The next morning, the school erupted again. Students circled in clusters, whispering my name. Some looked at me with awe, others with disgust, but all of them looked. That was power. And I drank it in like water after a drought. In the cafeteria, Emily tried again. She marched up to my table, her voice shaking with rage. You don't care who you hurt, do you? I leaned back, smirking. Do you? Her fists trembled at her sides. He's my fiancé, my future. And you. I cut her off, sharp and merciless. He was mine first. Gasps rippled around us. Someone recorded. And Emily? She broke. Tears welled to her eyes, and she turned, storming out of the cafeteria. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. The world was already chasing her with claws bared. That night, another message hit social media. A blurry photo of Emily and Mr. Carter leaving a bar together, taken weeks earlier, before all this began. The caption read, "She knew. She covered for him. She was part of it. I stared at the post, my lips curling into a smile. Because, in a way, it was true. She had known. She had looked the other way. And now, she was going to pay for that silence. Later that week, my phone buzzed again. It was Mr. Carter. This time, he didn't sound broken. He sounded furious. Meet me.
Tonight.
No games. I hesitated, but I agreed. Because some confrontations can't be avoided. And I wanted to watch him fall apart. He was waiting at the park, pacing under the flickering streetlight. When I approached, his face twisted with anger and fear. What do you want from me, Anna? I tilted my head, calm. Everything. You've already destroyed me. His voice cracked. Is that not enough? No, I said simply. His hands clenched into fists. You think this makes you powerful? You think you're in control? I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. I don't think it. I know it.
His jaw tightened.
His eyes burned. And then, for the first time, he snapped. You're just a kid playing with fire. I smiled faintly, cruel. Then burn with me. The silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. He shook his head, stepping back. You're sick. Maybe, I whispered. But I'm not the one who crossed the line first. That was you. His face twisted with guilt, with rage, with something he couldn't hide anymore. And I knew I had him, because guilt is the easiest weapon. All you have to do is press where it already hurts. The next morning, the school buzzed with breaking news. Mr. Carter had been officially terminated. His teaching license suspended pending review. Parents demanded criminal charges. And Emily? She vanished. She didn't come to school. Her house sat dark at night. It was as if she had been swallowed whole. And maybe she had. Because when storms come, not everyone survives. I walked through the halls like a queen through her kingdom. Every whisper was mine. Every stare was mine. Every rumor, every secret, every fragment of destruction mine.
But deep down, something gnawed at me.
Because the more power I felt, the more I craved. And the final strike hadn't come yet. Not until I exposed him completely. Not until the world saw the truth, not just the whispers. Not until there was nothing left of him to salvage. That night, I opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on the empty screen. And I began to type. Our story. Every detail. Every kiss. Every promise. Every whispered confession. Names included. No more hints. No more rumors. Just truth.
Raw.
Unfiltered. Unforgiving. And when it was finished, I pressed send. The article went live at midnight. By sunrise, the whole town had read it. Headlines flooded social media. Screenshots passed from phone to phone. Student affair with teacher exposed. My name was blurred. His wasn't. Neither was Emily's. By the time I walked into school, chaos had already erupted. Reporters circled outside the gates, shouting questions at anyone who would answer. Police cars idled at the curb. Teachers huddled in corners, whispering in frantic tones. And every pair of eyes turned toward me. Some looked horrified. Some looked hungry. But no one looked away. Mr. Carter arrived in handcuffs. I saw it with my own eyes. 2 officers guiding him across the parking lot, his face pale, his lips tight, his head hanging low. Gasps erupted around me. Some students cheered. Others cried.
But me?
I smiled. That afternoon, Emily stormed into my house. She didn't knock.
She didn't ask.
She just barged in, her eyes red, her voice trembling with fury. You did this, she screamed. I set my phone down calmly, watching her unravel. Yes. Her hands shook violently. Do you even understand what you've done? You've ruined his life. My life. Correction, I said coldly. He ruined his own. You just chose to stand beside him while he burned. Her voice cracked.
He loved me.
We were going to build a future together. And he loved me first. My tone was a blade. She recoiled as if I had struck her. You're insane, she whispered. No, I rose slowly, my shadow spilling across the room. I'm free. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she lunged. Her hands tangled in my hair, her nails clawing at my skin. I shoved her back, my voice sharp and commanding. Stop. She froze, panting, trembling. Tears streaked her face. You'll regret this, she hissed. I leaned in, close enough to see the cracks in her eyes. No, Emily. You will. She left, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. But her words lingered, because maybe she was right. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through the flood of reactions online. Some called me brave. Others called me a liar. Some wanted justice. Others wanted blood. But all of them, every single one, were talking about me. And wasn't that the point? To be seen. To never be invisible again. 2 days later, I was summoned to the principal's office. A detective sat waiting with a recorder on the table. Anna, he said gently, we need to hear your side. I told them everything. but not the truth. Not all of it. I painted myself as the victim, young and naive, manipulated by a teacher who should have known better. And the detective? He nodded, scribbling notes. Because that was the version of the story the world wanted. The version that made sense. The version that absolved me. Mr. Carter refused to speak. He sat in his cell, silent, broken, a man who had lost everything. And when I saw his mugshot online, something inside me twisted. Not regret, not guilt, something darker. Because part of me still wanted him. Part of me still remembered the way his voice softened when he said my name. And part of me wondered if I had destroyed the only person who had ever truly seen me. A week later, the trial began. The courtroom buzzed with tension, reporters scribbling notes, cameras flashing. Emily sat in the front row, her face pale but defiant. And when Mr. Carter was let in, our eyes met. For a heartbeat, the world went still. His lips moved silently.
Why?
I didn't answer. Because the answer was already written in the ruins surrounding us. When I took the stand, the room leaned in. My voice was steady, rehearsed, deliberate. He told me he loved me. He promised we'd always be together. I believed him. I trusted him. And then he betrayed me. Gasps echoed. Pens scratched furiously across paper. Emily shot up from her seat, shouting, "She's lying." The judge slammed the gavel. Order. But the damage was done. Everyone stared at her like she was the liar. Because in the theater of justice, the one who cries first often loses. When the verdict came, it was swift.
Guilty.
Sentencing postponed, but inevitable. Mr. Carter slumped in his chair, defeated. Emily buried her face in her hands. And me? I sat tall, unshaken. Because the final move had been played. And I had won. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed me. "Anna, do you feel justice was served?" I smiled faintly, my eyes shining for the cameras.
Yes.
Justice always finds its way. They scribbled furiously, microphones thrust toward me. And in that moment, under the flash of cameras, I felt untouchable. Like I had risen from the ashes while they all choked on smoke. But when I returned home that night, silence filled the air. No cameras. No applause. No whispers. Just me. Alone. And that's when it hit me. I had destroyed him. I had destroyed her. But I had destroyed something in myself too. Something I could never get back. I sat in the dark, staring at my reflection in the window. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I wasn't ready to answer. What if revenge isn't victory? What if it's just another kind of prison? The trial ended, but the noise never truly stopped. For weeks afterward, the town buzzed with fragments of my story. In cafes, people leaned across tables, whispering my name as if it were a secret too sharp to say out loud. In grocery stores, strangers stared at me like they already knew me, like they had read every hidden thought in my head. I should have felt powerful,
Seen.
validated, but instead, I felt hollow. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just exhaustion. The kind of emptiness that comes after a long battle. The kind that fades once the dust settles. But days stretched into weeks, and the emptiness remained. I scrolled endlessly through headlines, through threads dissecting my every word on the witness stand. Some praised me as brave, others condemned me as cruel. And every time I read them, I thought, they don't know me. They don't know anything. And yet, I had let them decide who I was. Mr. Carter stayed behind bars, awaiting sentencing. Emily vanished from school entirely. Rumor had it her parents sent her away, maybe to live with relatives in another state. No one saw her again. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about her. I pictured her face the last time she screamed at me, red, broken, streaked with tears. And for reasons I couldn't explain, that image haunted me more than Carter's downfall ever did. Because Emily wasn't innocent. But she wasn't guilty in the way the world now believed, either. I had made sure of that. Graduation came and went. My classmates marched across the stage, smiling for photos, clutching their diplomas. Families cheered, balloons floated, caps flew into the air. I smiled too on the outside. But inside, I felt detached, like I was watching my own life from a great distance. Revenge had been my anchor for so long. It had fueled every step, every breath, every heartbeat. And now, without it, I drifted. One afternoon in late summer, I wandered into the old classroom where it had all begun. The desks were empty, the chalkboard wiped clean. Dust floated in the sunlight like faint memories refusing to settle. I ran my hand across the teacher's desk, the same surface where Carter once leaned while he looked at me in a way that made me feel seen. Wanted. Special. I had craved that feeling more than anything, and I had destroyed it with my own hands. Was it worth it? I whispered aloud. The silence offered no answer. College letters arrived. I chose a university far away, in a city where no one knew my name, where whispers couldn't chase me through hallways. And for a while, it worked. I became another face in a lecture hall, another girl drinking coffee in a crowded cafe, another body rushing down sidewalks, lost in the rhythm of strangers. No one stared. No one whispered. It should have been liberating. But sometimes, in the quiet of my dorm room, I realized I missed it. The stares, the whispers, the way people once spent their necks to follow my story. I had hated it, and yet it had given me something I didn't know how to live without. Carter was sentenced to years in prison. The news reached me through a short article online. No one around me cared. No one even mentioned it. But I sat frozen in my room, reading and rereading the single paragraph. He was gone. Officially. Irrevocably. And instead of relief, I felt a sharp, aching hollowness. Because for all the betrayal, for all the pain, a part of me had loved him. And now, that part of me was sentenced too. As months passed, I tried to rebuild. I joined clubs. I studied. I laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. I even dated once or twice, but every time someone touched my hand, I pulled away too quickly. Because no matter how hard I tried, I carried the weight of everything I had done. Revenge had been my fire. But fire doesn't just burn your enemies. It burns you too. One night, nearly a year after it all began, I sat by the window of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker like scattered stars. And for the first time, I let myself cry. Not the sharp, angry tears of betrayal. Not the victorious tears of revenge. But the quiet, aching tears of someone who finally understood the cost. I had wanted peace, closure, justice. But what I had was scars. Invisible, permanent, stitched into the deepest parts of me. And yet, I also had truth. Maybe not the whole truth, maybe not the clean truth, but my truth. I had taken control when I felt powerless. I had forced the world to see me when it tried to ignore me. And though it left me broken in ways I couldn't repair, I wasn't invisible anymore. So, was it worth it? I still don't know. Some days, I wake with a strange calm, as if my choices carved a path only I was brave enough to walk. Other days, I wake drowning in regret, wishing I could go back and choose silence instead. But life doesn't offer rewinds, only consequences. And mine are heavy. If I could speak to the girl I was before it all, the girl who still believed in love, in trust, in first glances that could last forever, I would hold her hand and whisper, "Be careful. Some fires don't warm you. They consume you." Now, as I write this, I sit alone. Not victorious. Not defeated. Just changed. And maybe that's what revenge really is. Not a triumph. Not a cure. Just a mirror. One that shows you not who your enemies are, but who you've become. Thank you for spending time with this story. If Anna's journey of love, betrayal, and difficult choices made you pause and reflect, I'd love for you to stay connected. You can explore more emotional stories like this one here on the channel, where every tale is crafted to touch both language and heart. If you'd like, subscribe so you never miss the next story. Your thoughts and reflections are always welcome in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective.